there was ever a day when we needed a government to stand up for what was right, this would be that.
It's finally happened. Pierre finally brings up the topic, says the words in the House of Commons. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. In today's top story here, we've got the House of Commons session. Pierre brings up, in the eve of October 7th, what happened in Israel a year ago, the horrible event that happened last year. Pierre brings it up and calls out Justin Trudeau and the Liberals on why Jewish Canadians are not being protected here in Canada. The protests in the streets, the chants, going to people's houses, going to schools, it all has to stop, and Pierre calls them out. Check it out.
The NDP Liberals are not worth the cost, the crime, or the corruption. Prime Minister has ground the work of Parliament to a halt by refusing to respect your ruling. The government must hand over evidence to the police concerning the $400 million spending scandal that saw Liberal appointees give millions of dollars to their own companies. Wow. The Auditor General says there's 186 conflicts of interest in this scandal. Will the Prime Minister end the cover-up, respect your ruling, give the police the information so that we can have accountability and get back to work?
Yeah. So he's talking about the SDTC, the Sustainable Development, the Green Slush Fund, the $1 billion fund. We're talking $400 million stolen. The government shut down because the Liberals refused to send those documents to the RCMP, which says a whole lot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's demonstrably false what the Leader of the Opposition is saying, because your ruling was to send this matter to the House and Procedure Affairs Committee for more study. And so, in fact, it is only the Conservatives that are now obstructing their own obstruction, because they don't want this to go to committee, because it would demonstrate that they are trying to upend charter rights and override police independence.
This is just such a load of crap. She's trying to deflect this and not have the actual truth come out. A side note, if anyone's looking on some tips on how to wear a tablecloth, you can give Karina Gould a call.
Speaker, the Parliament can get back to work this minute if the government will just hand over the evidence to the police about this $400 million Liberal spending scandal. Interesting. They say everybody's going to lose their charter rights if the police get evidence into this $400 million Liberal spending scandal. Right. No, what will happen is that the Liberal nominees and appointees who engaged in 186 conflicts of interest to stuff their own pockets will be held criminally accountable, and Canadians might get their money back. Why won't they hand over the evidence, respect your ruling, so we can get back to work around here?
Yeah. How do you even argue against that? It's exactly it. It's like, well, Canadians are losing our rights because the police are getting evidence against criminals. In this case, being in the government.
Mr. Speaker, what's interesting about this is that there's actually proof that the Leader of the Opposition is saying is false, because in your ruling you said this matter needs to go to the House and Procedures Affairs Committee for further study, because this is unprecedented in what the Conservatives are putting forward, because, as the RCMP mentioned, it would upend charter rights and it would blur.
No, you guys have upended charter rights. You guys need to go to jail for what you've done.
The lines between judicial and legislative independence. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives can follow your ruling and we can all go back to work, which is what exactly the Canadians want us to do.
No, it's not. We want the RCMP to have those documents, and then you guys can get the government going again.
A year ago today, a sadistic and genocidal death cult, Hamas, carried out the biggest attack on Jews since the Holocaust and has 100 more hostages. Bring them home. Here at home, though, our Jewish friends and neighbors have been doubly victimized as anti-Semitic mobs take to the streets shouting, "From Palestine to Lebanon, Israel will soon be gone. There's only one solution: intifada, revolution." Will the government clearly and unequivocally condemn these genocidal chants from hateful mobs on our streets?
Yeah.
I've been covering these now for months. Those are not even the worst of them. There's some of them, like even saying that, this country will crumble. And they've had some where they've called for extermination, using that word, extermination.
Mr. Speaker, Judy Weinstein, Vivian Silver, Ben Mizrachi, Netta Epstein, Shir Georgi, Alexandre Luc, Idal Vital Kaploun, Tiferet Lapido.
Just gonna read names.
May their memories be a blessing. It was my honor to have met with their families here at home and in Israel. And on the anniversaries of Hamas' horrific attacks, my promise to their loved ones is the following. Year after year, Canadians will honor their memories, and to Jewish people, we stand with you. We won't relent until the last hostage returns home.
She does relent every single day, just like her leader. I asked a very simple question. mobs have taken to the streets in front of Jewish homes, hospitals, and businesses to shout anti-Semitic hate slogans. I quoted a number of them and invited the minister to rise to her feet and specifically condemn them, to stand with Jews against the anti-Semitism that has been allowed to proliferate on our streets. So once again, will she condemn these anti-Semitic chants?
Yeah. They went to Jewish neighborhoods and were chanting it. And as he said, they're outside hospitals chanting that. Now think of someone trying to recover from injuries, from illness, from disease, and having to hear that. That's not exactly a stress-free environment. I'm really happy to see Pierre calling this out in the House of Commons. This has just been something that's been going on forever, and no one's talking about it. The mainstream media doesn't talk about it. It's only up to us here on YouTube to talk about it, because everyone else is paid off and won't dare touch it.
Mr. Speaker, today is October 7th, an anniversary of a horrific attack on Jews. 1,200 people killed, over 200 people taken hostage. Our solidarity is with Jews in Israel and with Jewish people in Canada and right around the world. What we stand up against absolutely is the amount of hatred that we have seen in this country and countries around the world, where people will target Jewish Canadian schools, daycares, and synagogues for the acts that they have a problem with on another side of the world. We are better than that in this country. We need to stand up against that kind of hatred in support of Jewish people and in place of all people who defend their ability to worship how and whom they choose.
Yet they don't do anything. They could easily just get the cops to go out there and start arresting people like they should be doing, because they're breaking the laws every day. I've called it out every day. There's smoke grenades, they're on top of excavators, standing on top of the historic Bank of Montreal building. Every night they're out there, they're probably breaking at least 3 to 5 different laws.
I gave the Foreign Affairs Minister 2 opportunities to condemn the increasingly common and terrifying anti-Semitic chants we hear in the streets. Israel will soon be gone. There is only one solution: intifada, revolution. Twice she refused to condemn those remarks. She continues to pander to Hamas supporters in the Liberal Party as part of her leadership campaign rather than doing her job. So I'll give her another chance. Will she publicly support Israel's right to retaliate against the tyrants of Tehran and the terrorists in Hezbollah and Hamas to protect itself? Yes or no?
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, if there's a day where we don't do politics about people's lives being taken or people being killed, it's today. Any form of anti-Semitism, I hope, in this House, any form of discrimination, and I really hope that my colleague in front will apologize.
Right on. You need to apologize to all the Jewish people in those hospitals and those communities. Get real.
If there was ever a day when we needed a government to stand up for what was right, this would be that.
That's it.
Has sought to divide Canadians by saying one thing to one group and precisely the opposite to another group. And here in this House, remaining radio silent on condemning anti-Semitic chants and on supporting Israel's right to truly defend itself by retaliating against the terrorists and tyrants. Why won't she do the right thing and stand beside the Jewish people today?
Yeah. It's because the Middle Eastern Islamic vote makes up 5 times more than the Israeli Jewish vote. That's why they don't want to, they're bringing in all these people as voters. And that's Trudeau's last hope. Despite them calling out Trudeau in the streets, the whole situation is ridiculous.
Mr. Speaker, 1 year ago in the Middle East, peace was broken by a violent terrorist attack by Hamas. On this side of the ocean, we deserve to do better in terms of the protest that we articulate. It needs to be peaceful. What that means is you don't go out on the streets and target a daycare. You don't go out on the streets and target...
Yeah, but that's exactly what they do. And they specifically say in those protests, they do not want peace. They want extermination. You're the justice minister. Call some cops and get it done. This guy does not care. They don't care. They don't care about Canadians. They don't care about Jewish people. All they care about is either wreaking havoc, stuffing their own pockets. I don't even know what their agenda is anymore. There's so much corruption and absolute disarray in this country. It's unbelievable.
Target a community center. You don't go out on the streets and target a synagogue. Our resolve to fight anti-Semitism is strong. It has been strong since this parliament started when we outlawed the willful promotion of anti-Semitism. It is even stronger now when we're advocating for more strict penalties, which that party opposes.
The Liberals all look like a bunch of uninspired zombies sitting over there.
Speaker, it was you who ruled that this NDP Liberal government obstructed a lawful order of this House by not turning over the evidence in the $400 million corruption scandal. It has this Parliament paralyzed and unable to deal with the misery and chaos that's been created after 9 years of this NDP Liberal government. And taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up for the cover-up of this latest corruption scandal. So will they simply provide the evidence to the police so that this House can get back to its work of holding them accountable?
No criminal is going to give evidence of themselves committing a crime. That's what we've got here in the government of Canada with the Liberals.
Well, that member is, again, false in his statements, because what you clearly ruled was that this matter should be sent to committee for further study, because it is the first time in this Parliament's history that it is taking its extraordinary powers and abusing them in such an egregious way. The issue with which the honourable member is discussing has been dealt with by this government, but it's up to the Conservatives to stop obstructing their own obstruction so that we can all get back to the important work of governing for Canadians. Thank you.
I can't stand listening to her. She's such a liar, and you just read her face. You don't need me to say it. She doesn't believe a word she says. She's just covering up for her lying thieves back here.
A Liberal would get up in this place and say that the majority of members in this House who are democratically elected, exercising powers that are legally bestowed upon this Parliament, are somehow infringing upon this government's constitutional right to not be investigated by the RCMP for their own corruption. It's absolutely unbelievable. Over 186 conflicts of interest, $400 million lining the pockets of well-connected Liberal insiders, while Canadians are lined up at food banks in record numbers. So we want to know if this government's expecting the NDP to bail them out and stop us from holding them to account.
Yeah, well, we'll see what's going to happen with that.
Mr. Speaker, let's be clear about two things. In terms of a criminal prosecution, the way it normally unfolds is the police seek a search warrant from a judge. The judge evaluates the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Charter interest they're at stake in getting those documents, something of which that party cares not. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, we also have this fundamental premise. It's called police independence. We safeguard it in Canada. You know who doesn't safeguard it? Authoritarian regimes. I guess the leader of the opposition and his minions are sharing their blatant observation and favoritism towards authoritarian tactics in this House.
This is unbelievable, because these guys have been running this country with authoritarian fists for the last 9 years, and it's just been escalating and get worse and worse every year. The audacity of this thug to even say that. Jumping ahead, we got a couple other good clips here, starting with Kelly Block here of the Conservatives.
Will the NDP Liberals end the cover-up, give proof to the police so Parliament can get working for Canadians?
Exactly. Mr. Speaker, talking about working for Canadians. Now Canadians at home, we're seeing conservative blocking conservative motion, Mr. Speaker. Can you imagine that? We live in a parallel world in this place. The Conservatives are blocking their own motion, Mr. Speaker. What we did and we promised to Canadians was to get to the bottom of this, Mr. Speaker. There'll be 4 independent reports, Mr. Speaker, including the Auditor General, including the Commissioner of the RCMP. We said he has all the documents, Mr. Speaker. Not only the board resigned, the CEO resigned, the integrity of the foundation has been transferred, Mr. Speaker. We uphold the highest standards.
Parallel universe. How about Canadian tax dollars being handed over to Dan Goldberg of Telesat Lightspeed to put up satellites, but aren't putting up any satellites? Instead, it's just Mark Carney's buddy there getting $2 billion of our money, which then he can invest and do whatever he wants for the next 5 years, and we make no money from it. He makes all the money from it. He can easily go make $1 billion off of our $2 billion, actually $5 billion since 2019. We talk about parallel universe. What kind of parallel universe are we living in where we get nothing for our hard work?
Mr. Speaker, Canadians expect their government to do more when it comes to the climate crisis, but the Liberals are so far deep in the pockets of Canada's...
This woman's an absolute nut. We're not going to continue listening to her. Finally, we got one more zinger here from the Conservatives.
Mr. Speaker, who's Randy? It's a question that has gripped the nation, and we have yet to receive a truthful answer. Text messages reveal that the Minister of of Employment's fraud-ridden business partner was working with Randy to shake down a medical supply company. The texts show that Randy was in Vancouver the same day as the Minister of Employment was there attending a cabinet retreat. The minister denied speaking with his partner. He claimed he didn't even have his phone, but now he admits that he did text and call his partner. So will the minister stand up and admit that he's been Randy all along?
He's not going to.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we have stated all along, that if a witness is called to committee and asked to provide information, they need to provide that information to committee. Thank you.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. She's got that smug smile. These bunch of liars. They have been called for that information. That's why Stephen Anderson is getting called to the bar. The second person. This is historic. Remember Christian Firth being called? It was the first person in like 107 years. We got Stephen Anderson getting called now. 2 people in a year. This is historic times 2. This is like 200 years worth of corruption condensed into 1 Liberal year. So she just lied by saying that. She knows this is happening.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Employment denied being Randy. He claimed he had no business dealings with his fraud-ridden business partner. He said he never even spoke to him in Vancouver while he was at the cabinet retreat. He said it was impossible. But after handing over his phone to the ethics commissioner, he finally admitted that he did text and call his business partner while at the cabinet retreat in Vancouver. The minister concealed the truth from Parliament for months, and only after getting caught did he admit his actions. Now the Speaker has even found his business partner in contempt of Parliament. The minister has had all summer to reveal the real Randy. Will he stand up and reveal himself today?
The whole situation is just stupid. The fact that you can see Karina Gould here standing up, like, where's Randy? Is he even here, or is he just doesn't show up anymore because he's a thief and he's hiding?
Speaker, as I have said and reiterate, that as a witness is called to committee and if they are asked to provide information to that committee, we expect they provide that information. Thank you.
That's right.
Yeah, and they didn't provide it, so they should be going to jail. See, you notice Chrystia Freeland's sitting here, but she's not saying much. She does speak once in this session. We don't need to listen to her, but I think she was a part of that cabinet shuffle. She's on the outs. If you notice, too, she's been sitting here this whole time like she's smelling an egg fart. By the time Christmas rolls around, I don't think Chrystia Freeland's going to be part of the Liberals. They're probably going to shuffle out a few other people too. Who knows? But maybe they won't even make it till Christmas. Karina Gould's doing her best to try to stall things, but we all know they're full of crap. Things are heating up way too much. The only way to clean this shelf off is to prorogue the government, but then they risk not being able to come back. What will the Liberals' next step be?